Hey guys, and welcome to your first video. Remember, this is just a review of some of the things that we've learned in the past 2 days. While you are watching this video, you should have that question sheet I handed out in front of you. Actually, before you even start watching the video, I need you to pause and read through every single question. So go ahead. Are you reading the questions? Did you read all of the questions? If not, please pause. Actually press pause and read through every single question before you continue. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what science is, and then we came up with the idea that science is really a way of knowing and a way of understanding the world around us. What it really is answering questions through investigations. So these questions could be things that you're wondering. You might want to know what happened or why something happens, and science helps us figure out how to answer those questions. So as far as we're concerned in science, we are always going to start with a question. Sometimes I will tell you what that question is. It's something that I need us to answer in class. A lot of times in science, this question will come from a societal need, like how do we get more clean water to people? Or it'll be a curiosity. Someone will notice something happening and want to explain it or know how it could be useful, but we're really going to start with the idea that we're going to start with a question in science. Or the goal for science is going to be a possible answer to our question. But we already know that in science we aren't going to call it a possible answer. We have a better name for it. We're going to call it a claim. And what a claim really is a possible answer to a question that is supported by evidence. This is not just a guess. This isn't just an idea that you had. It is a possible answer that is supported by evidence. So how do we get to that claim? Well, as we mentioned, it needs to be supported by evidence, so we need to collect that evidence. Sometimes we call evidence data. Sometimes we call it measurements. Sometimes we call it observations. But whatever we call it, it is evidence if we're using it to answer our question, to support our claim. I want to talk a little bit more about observations. So an observation is something you have seen, you've heard, you've smelled it, maybe you've felt it or tasted it. As you may notice, these are your 5 senses. So something that you have found out based on your 5 senses. There are 2 types of observations that we spoke about. There are qualitative observations and quantitative observations. The easiest way to remember the difference between the 2 is that quantitative measurements contain numbers. Qualitative observations do not. Let's have a few examples. We're going to look at this little guy with glasses up in the corner. So a few qualitative observations about this guy. He has skinny legs, he has big glasses. His hand is in front of one of his eyes. The letters that make up observations are different colors. The letter A is green. Those are all qualitative. Now, a quantitative measurement, remember, has to have numbers. So that might be, there are 2 letters that are yellow. He has 2 legs, 4 fingers on his hand. It could also be a measurement. I could say his glasses are about 5.5 centimeters long. All of those have numbers, and so that they are considered quantitative observations. All right, so let's go back to the beginning and remember that in science, we're going to start with a question that we want to answer. In order to answer that question, we will collect evidence of various types, and then we'll use that evidence to get to our claim. Now, when we want to convince someone of this, or we really want to strengthen our claim, we need to connect the evidence to the claim. And we do that through something called reasoning. Okay, so the reasoning is what helps us connect the evidence directly to our claim. So this reasoning is probably the part of claim evidence reasoning that needs the most practice, because it takes a lot of practice to get really good reasoning. What it does is it connects the evidence to the claim, and it also really explains how the evidence supports the claim. It tells us why our evidence is important in getting to our answer. And the reason that we need to do that, the reason we can't just have a claim and evidence, is we need to communicate our scientific findings. For us as 7th grade science students, we communicate so that, one, I know that you're understanding what you're supposed to be understanding, and so that we can work collaboratively as a class, and it'll also help really improve your scientific communication skills. Other scientists will communicate their findings for a lot of different reasons. It will help other people learn more and do new things. It might help cure diseases, solve problems. It might help certain companies make a lot more money. But scientists really don't exist just on their own. They don't do science just because they like it. The goal of it is really to come to some sort of betterment, whether it is for an individual, a company, or the whole world. So claim evidence reasoning is a great way to format our argument. We have our claim, we have evidence that supports it, and we have reasoning that explains why that evidence supports it. But how do we actually give this information to someone else? Well, in our class, we will use something called a CER board. We use this because it's neat, it's organized, and it's in the same format every time. So everyone is very comfortable with where to put the information and where to find the information. And this is what a CER board looks like. We have the question and the claim in the top. Then we have a little chart on the bottom with 2 columns, 1 column for evidence and 1 column for reasoning. So when you are doing your claim evidence reasoning board, you want to make sure that you only list the evidence that you actually used to make your claim. So let's do an example. I was walking through some farmland the other day and I saw this tree. And I wanted to know what happened. So what happened to this tree? Let's take a look at it, make some observations, take a look at the surroundings. Okay, so I'm going to make some observations, and I'm going to list them right now just so we can see what they are. So my question is listed up at the top, what happened to the tree? I have my evidence here. There are burned parts on the tree. There are red and hot areas on the inside of the tree, but the outside is not burned. There's a lot of tree limbs down around it, and the skies look kind of cloudy. Let's go back and see if we can see that. So we have cloudy skies, tree limbs fallen down. The outside of the tree is not burned, but there are some burned areas, and it's really hot on the inside. Okay, so that leads me to think that the tree was hit by lightning. The evidence helped me come to the claim that the tree was hit by lightning. Now here's my reasoning. So seeing burned parts on the tree led me to believe that something caused the tree to catch on fire. Lightning is electricity, and I know that that can cause fires. So I also noticed the red hot areas on the inside and the outside isn't burned. That made me think that the fire wasn't started on the outside of the tree because only the inside was hot. Electricity from a lightning strike, I thought, could get inside of the tree. I also thought that maybe a storm came through and knocked some limbs down and left the skies cloudy. So the lots of limbs down in the cloudy skies, I thought, my reasoning was that was probably from a storm, and I know a thunderstorm is likely to have lightning. I would like you to notice that my evidence only has evidence that I used to support my claim. There were lots of things we could observe or measure or notice about the tree that I didn't use for the claim, and I didn't include them. So for example, the leaves on the tree are green. There are several trees in the background. The dirt on the ground is brown. Those are all true. They're things I observed. They're not related to my claim that the tree was hit by lightning, so I did not include them. So that's it. If you have questions, please write them down in the space I left you to write questions. We're going to be doing this and practicing CER boards throughout the entire year. I hope you have a great day.